Chapter 10, which far surpasses in audacity the imaginative flights of Dante and Milton. Maurice at length turned his head, saw the figure, and perceiving that it moved, was also frightened. Meanwhile, Gilbert was regaining her senses. She imagined that what she had seen was some mistress whom her lover had hidden in the room. Inflamed with anger and disgust at the idea of such treachery, boiling with indignation, and glaring at her supposed rival, she exclaimed, "A woman, a naked woman too! You bring me into a room where you allow your women to come, and when I arrive, they have not had time to dress, and you reproach me when arriving late? Your impudence is beyond belief. Come, send the creature packing. If you wanted us both here together, you might have at least have asked me whether it suited me." Maurice, wide-eyed and groping for a revolver that had never been there, whispered in her ear, "Be quiet. It is no woman. One can scarcely see, but it is more like a man." She put her hands over her eyes and again screamed harder than ever. "A man? Where does he come from? A thief? An assassin? Help! Help! Kill him! Maurice, kill him! Turn on the light." "No, don't turn on the light." She made a mental vow that she should escape from this danger. She would burn a candle to the Blessed Virgin. Her teeth chattered. The figure made a movement. "Keep away," cried Gilbert. "Keep away." She offered the burglar all the money and jewels she had on the table, if he would consent not to stir. Amid her surprise and terror, the idea assailed her that her husband, dissembling his suspicions, had caused her to be followed, had posted witnesses, and had recourse to commissaire de police. And at last she distinctly saw before her the long, painful future, the glaring scandal, the pretended disdain, the cowardly desertion of her friends, the just mockery of society, for it is indeed ridiculous to be found out. She saw the divorce, the loss of her position and her rank. She saw the dreary and narrow existence with her mother, when no one would make love to her. For men avoid women who fail to give them the security of the married state. And all this, why? Why this ruin, this disaster, for a piece of folly, for a mere nothing? Thus, in a lightning flash, spoke the conscience of Gilbert de Abels. "Have no fear, madame," said a very sweet voice. Slightly reassured, she found the strength to ask, "Who are you?" "I am an angel," replied the voice. "What did you say?" "I am an angel. I am Maurice's guardian angel." "Say it again." "I'm going mad. I do not understand." Maurice, without understanding either, was indignant. He sprang forward and showed himself. With his right hand armed with a slipper, he made a threatening gesture and said in a rough voice, "You're a low ruffian. Oblige me by going the way you came." "Maurice d'Espervieux," continued the sweet voice, "he whom you adore as your creator, has stationed by the side of each of the faithful a good angel, whose mission it is to counsel and protect him. It is the invariable opinion of the fathers. It is founded on many passages in the Bible. The church admits it unanimously, without ever pronouncing anathema upon those who hold a contrary opinion. You see before you one of these angels, yours, Maurice. I was commanded to watch over your innocence and to guard your chastity." "That may be," said Maurice, "but you are certainly no gentleman. A gentleman would not permit himself to enter a room at such a moment. To be plain, what the deuce are you doing here?" "I have assumed this appearance, Maurice, because having henceforth to move among mankind, I have to make myself like them. The celestial spirits possess the power of assuming a form which renders them apparent to the eye and to the touch. This shape is real because it is apparent, and all the realities in the world are but appearances." Gilbert, pacified at length, was arranging her hair on her forehead. Angel pursued, "The celestial spirits adopt, according to their fancy, one sex or the other, or both at once, but they cannot disguise themselves at any moment, according to their caprice or fancy. Their metamorphoses are subject to constant laws, which you would not understand. Thus I have neither desire nor power to transform myself under your eyes, for your amusement or my own. into a lion, a tiger, a fly, into a sycamore shaving, like the young Egyptian whose story was found in a tomb. I cannot change myself into a donkey, as in Lycius, with the pomade of the youthful focus, for in my wisdom I had fixed beforehand the hour of my apparition to mankind. Nothing could hasten or delay it. Impatient for enlightenment, Maurice asked for the second time. Still, what are you up to here? Joining her voice to his, Madame de Abels asked. Yes, indeed, what are you doing here? The angel replied, Man, lend your ear. Woman, hear my voice. I'm about to reveal to you a secret on which hangs the fate of the universe. In rebellion against him whom you hold to be the creator of all things, visible and invisible, I am preparing the revolt of the angels. Do not jest, said Maurice, who had a faith and did not allow holy things to be played with. But the angel answered reproachfully, What makes you think, Maurice, that I am frivolous and given to vain words? Come, come, said Maurice, shrugging his shoulders. You are not going to revolt against, he pointed to the ceiling, not daring to finish. But the angel continued, Do you not know that the sons of God have already revolted, and that a great battle took place in the heavens? That was a long time ago, said Maurice, putting on his socks. Then the angel replied, It was before the creation of the world, but nothing has changed since then in the heavens. The nature of angels is no different now from what it was originally. What they did then, they could do again now. No, it is not possible. It is contrary to faith. If you were an angel, a good angel, as you make out you are, it would never occur to you to disobey your creator. You were in error, Maurice, and the authority of the fathers condemns you. Origen lays it down in his homilies that good angels are fallible, that they sin every day and fall from heaven like flies. Perhaps you may be tempted to reject the authority of this father, despite his knowledge of the scriptures, because he is excluded from the canon of the saints. If this be so, I would remind you of the second chapter of Revelation, in which the angels of Ephesus and Pergamos are rebuked for that they kept not ward over their church. You will doubtless contend that the angels to whom the apostle here references are, properly speaking, the bishops of the two cities in question, and that he calls them angels on account of their ministry. It may be so, and I see the point. But with what arguments, Maurice, would you counter the opinion of all those doctors and pontiffs whose unanimous teaching it is that angels may fall from good into evil? Such is the statement made by Saint Jerome in his epistle to Damascus. Monsieur, said Madame de Abels, go away, I beg you. But the angel hearkened not and continued. St. Augustine in his True Religion, chapter 13, St. Gregory in his Morals, chapter 24, Isidore, Monsieur, let me get my things on, I am in a hurry. In his treatise, The Greatest Good, book 1, chapter 12, Bed on Joe. Oh, please, Monsieur, chapter 8, John of Damascus on Faith, book 2, chapter 3. These are, I think, sufficiently weighty authorities, and there is nothing for it, Maurice, but to admit your error. What has led you astray is that you have not duly considered my nature, which is free, active, and mobile, like that of all the angels, and that you have merely observed the grace and felicity with which you deem me so richly endowed. Lucifer possessed no less, yet he rebelled. But what on earth are you rebelling for? Asked Maurice. Isaiah, answered the child of light. Isaiah has already asked before you. Quomodo Hekidisti de Quello Lucifer que mane oribaris. Hearken, Maurice. Before time was, the angels rose up to win dominion over heaven. The most beautiful of the seraphim revolted through pride. As for me, it is science that has inspired me with a generous desire for freedom. Finding myself near you, Maurice, a house containing one of the vastest libraries in the world, I acquired a taste for reading and a love of study. While fordone with the toils of a sensual life, you lay sunk in heavy slumber. I surrounded myself with books. I studied. I pondered over the pages, sometimes in one of the rooms of the library, under the busts of the great men of antiquity, sometimes at the far end of the garden, in the room in the summer house next to your own. On hearing these words, young Esprevu exploded with laughter and beat the pillow with his fist, an infallible sign of uncontrollable mirth. It was you who pillaged Papa's library and drove poor old Sadiet off his head. You know he had become completely idiotic. Busily engaged, continued the angel, cultivating for myself a sovereign intelligence. I paid no heed to that inferior being, and when he thought to offer obstacles to my researches and to disturb my work, I punished him for his importunity. One particular winter's night in the abode of the philosophers and globes, I let a volume, a great weight, fall on his head, which he tried to tear from my invisible hand. The more recently, raising with a vigorous arm composed of a column of condensed air, a precious manuscript of Flavius Josephus, I gave the imbecile such a fright that he rushed out, screaming on to the landing, and, to borrow a striking expression from Dante Alighieri, fell, even as a dead body falls. He was well rewarded, for you gave him, madame, to staunch the blood from his wound, your little scented handkerchief. It was the day, you may remember, when behind a celestial globe you exchanged a kiss on the mouth with Maurice. Monsieur, said Madame Bells with a frown, I cannot allow you. But she stopped short, deeming it was an importunate moment to appear over exacting on a matter of decorum. I had made up my mind, continued Angel impassively, to examine the foundations of belief. I first attacked the monuments of Judaism, and I read all the Hebrew texts. You know Hebrew, then, exclaimed Maurice. Hebrew is my native tongue. In paradise, for a long time, we have spoken nothing else. Ah, you are a Jew. I might have deduced it from your want of tact. Angel, not deigning to hear, continued in his melodious voice. I have delved deep into Oriental antiquities, and also into those of Greece and Rome. I have devoured the works of theologians, philosophers, physicists, geologists, and naturalists. I have learned. I have thought. I have lost my faith. What? You no longer believe in God? I believe in him, since my existence depends on his. And if he should fail to exist, I myself should fall into nothingness. I believe in him, even as the satyrs and the Mamedes believe in Dionysus. And for the same reason, I believe in the God of the Jews and the Christians. But I deny he created the world. At the most, he organized but an inferior part of it. And all that he touched bears the mark of his rough and unforeseen touch. I do not think he is either eternal or infinite, for it is absurd to conceive of a being who is not bound by space or time. I think him limited, even very limited. I no longer believe him to be the only God. For a long time, he did not believe in it himself. In the beginning, he was a polytheist. Later, his pride and flattery of his worshippers made himself a monotheist. His ideas have little connection. He is less powerful than he is thought to be. And to speak candidly, he is not so much a god as a vain and ignorant demiurge. Those who, like myself, know his true nature call him Yaldabaoth. What's that you say? Yaldabaoth. Yaldabaoth? What is that? I've already told you it is the demiurge whom, in your blindness, you adore as the one and only God. You're mad. I do not advise you to go and talk rubbish like that. To Abba Patulio. I'm not in the least sanguine, my dear Maurice. Piercing the dense night of your intellect, I merely tell you that I am going to engage Yaldabaoth in conflict with some hopes of victory. Mark my words, you won't succeed. Lucifer shook his throne, and the issue was for a moment in doubt. What is your name? Abdiel for the angels and saints, Arcade for mankind. Well, my poor Arcade, I regret to see you going to the bad, but confess you are jesting with us. I could at a pinch understand You're leaving heaven for a woman. Love makes us commit the greatest follies. But you will never make me believe that you, who have seen God face to face, ultimately found the truth in old Sarriette's musty books. No, you will never get me to believe that. My dear Maurice, Lucifer was face to face with God, yet he refused to serve him. As to the kind of truth one finds in books, it is a truth that enables us sometimes to discern what things are not, without ever enabling us to discover what they are. And this poor little truth has sufficed to prove to me that he in whom I blindly believe is not believable, and that men and angels have been deceived by the lies of Yaldabaoth. There is no Yaldabaoth, there is God. Come, Arcade, do the right thing. Renounce these follies, these impieties. Disincarnate yourself, become once more a pure sake, a pure spirit, and resume your office of guardian angel. Return to duty, I forgive you, but do not let us see you again. I should like to please you, Maurice. I feel certain affection for you, for my heart is soft, but faint henceforth calls me elsewhere, towards being capable of thought and action. Monsieur Arcade, said Madame de Abels, withdraw, I implore you. It makes me horribly shy to be in this position before two men. I assure you, I'm not accustomed to it. And so as time went on, Christianity began to label Lucifer as an enemy. Originally, there was this sarcastic reference, right? And this sarcastic reference eventually became whatever. And it's the Coptic is Iau Ta Ba'oth for Yod Ba'oth. And Yolda is child. The Hoot is emptiness, darkness, chaos. And you add a meme in the middle of that, and you get the beastly. Yeah, Bakhmut, behemoth. And so one of the issues with that is that the way that Christianity and Judaism has put forth somewhat limited ideas of God, it has resulted in drawing things out. Any issues that remained in their doctrines that were really reworked stuff from Mesopotamia, we see that coming through. And in Hebrew, again, wouldn't be what it was called. It was spelled Armya. So that would be Aramaic. And some people, their reason, gets more or less the better of them. But we'll see how this book goes, because I really don't know how this book goes. I just, heard on that this was an important book to the Satanic Temple, and so therefore I thought, hey, it's past its date. It's one of those ones, and I could share it, and throw in some comment. But the guardian angel, and it's like, well, why aren't you worrying about your consequences when you're? I mean, this is fiction, but why aren't you worrying about your consequences when you pursue an affair, that sort of thing? Then the scandal it's going to be upon, right? But that's the way life is. One risks the worst results in this world for that sake. and it's just angels, such a confusing term in English that, you know, when you talk about the Malaika, you don't have fallen angels, but because in Christianity you have the ones that fell and the ones that didn't fall on the same side of language. You know, doctrines are bound to develop, and issues in the Bible end up with further issues of doctrine, don't they?